forms with the help of two brachiocephalic veins. They join together and form superior vena cava. And one vein inflow into superior vena cava, that is vena azygos. Then brachiocephalic vein forms with the help of internal jugular vein, vena jugularis interna, and subclavian vein, vena subclavia. Brachiocephalic vein receive blood from thyroid gland, that is vena thyroidea inferior. The same may be unpaired vein, vena thyroidea ima. It's also inflow into brachiocephalic vein. Then vena vertebralis and vena thoracica interna. All of them inflow into brachiocephalic vein. Now, internal jugular vein, vena jugularis interna. Internal jugular vein starts from jugular foramen on the skull. And it has intracranial inflows and extracranial. Intracranial, they are veins of brain, for example, vena cerebri magna, veins of the orbita, that is vena ophthalmica, and veins of inner ear, vena auditiva, and all sinuses of dura mater. I explain them in a minute. They are intracranial. Extracranial inflows of internal jugular vein are vena temporalis superficialis joined together with vena maxillaris and forms vena retramandibularis, and vena retramandibularis receive vena facialis and inflow into internal jugular vein, vena retramandibularis together with vena facialis. The same, that is thyroid gland, vena thyroidea superior and vena thyroidea media. They also inflow into internal jugular vein. They are extracranial inflows of internal jugular vein. On the neck, the same, we have external jugular vein, and anterior jugular vein, vena jugularis anterior. Anterior jugular veins start at the level of body of hide bone, descend on anterior surface of the neck, and goes into the space between second and third fascia of the neck, between superficial and deep layers of fascia colipropria. That is, the space between this fascia is spatium interaponeuroticum suprasternale. Do you remember from myology? Space between second and third fascia, spatium interaponeuroticum suprasternale. And in this space, right and left anterior jugular veins makes anastomosis, that is arcus venosus juguli, and after that anterior jugular vein inflow into venous angle, that is place where internal jugular vein joined with subclavian vein. They fuse together, anterior jugular vein and external jugular vein fuse together and inflow into venous angle or into subclavian vein. External jugular vein consists of vena accipitalis and vena auricularis posterior. These two veins join together and continues into external jugular vein. And external jugular vein, the same, receive vena suprascapularis. Vena suprascapularis inflow into external jugular vein. In your manual, present information that vena retromandibularis inflow into external jugular vein. Sometime it's possible, sometime maybe variant of human anatomy when vena retromandibularis inflow into external jugular vein. But in most cases, vena retromandibularis inflow into internal jugular vein, and you will answer that vena retromandibularis inflow into internal jugular vein. I want to show this information. Here it is. Look here. At this diagram, you can see that vena retromandibularis inflow into external jugular vein, vena jugularis externa. And at this diagram, vena retromandibularis joined with facial vein and inflow into internal jugular vein. You will answer this variant. You cannot answer as you want. That vena retromandibularis inflow into external jugular vein. That is one variant of venous system where retromandibular vein inflow into external jugular, in most cases into internal jugular vein. And now some words about sinuses. What are they? What is sinus of dura mater? For example, that is bones of the skull, and here it is dura mater. Dura mater, that is hard meanings of the brain. And dura mater fused with bones, except places where between bone and dura mater we have, that is fused together, dura mater and bones, except place where between bone and dura mater we have space. This space has name sinus. And some sinuses we have inside of dura mater, that is 2 layers of dura mater, and between them we have space. Some spaces between bones and dura mater, this, for example, this space, and some spaces is between 2 layers of dura mater. Here it is. They are sinus spaces where venous blood pass. That is specific structures. Only in skull we can see these structures. Which sinuses? Do you remember what is the name of this groove? Sulcus sinus sagittalis superior. Between this groove, this is sulcus sinus sagittalis superior, and in place between this sulcus and dura mater we have sinus. On the skull we can see here sinus sagittalis superior. And what is this groove? Sulcus sinus transverse. Here it is transverse sinus, and this groove is groove of sigmoid sinus. Sulcus sinus, that is sigmoid sinus is here. Here it is superior petrosal sinus, sinus petrosi superior, and here it is sinus petrosi inferior. Laterally from sella turcica we have sinus cavernosus here, and in front and behind sinus intercavernosus. Along of lesser veins of sphenoid bone we have sinus sphenoparietalis. Here it is sinus accipitalis, and 2 sinuses impossible to see on the skull because they are inside of dura mater. They are sinus sagittalis inferior and sinus rectus. Sinus sagittalis inferior continues into sinus rectus, and sinus rectus joined together with sinus sagittalis superior, sinus transversus, and sinus accipitalis, and forms here it is between protuberans accipitalis interna and dura mater, makes here it is confluence sinum. And from this confluence venous blood goes to sinus transversus, then goes to sigmoid sinus, and goes to jugular foramen. And from jugular foramen start internal jugular vein. Or, for example, from here, from sinus sphenoparietalis, blood continues into sinus cavernosus. From sinus cavernosus, 2 ways. One way directly from sinus petrosus inferior to jugular foramen. Another way through sinus petrosus superior into sigmoid sinus, and the same goes to jugular foramen. Next time, system of superior vena cava and sinuses of dura mater. That is venous system, superior vena cava, brachiocephalic vein, and veins of the head and neck. Sinuses. To page 218. Your questions? No? And do you receive preparate?
I didn't have.
Okay, next time you receive not only base of the skull but preparate the same, okay? Oh, what is it?